Hi, this is Eric Hess with the Encrypted Economy. On today's podcast, we have charged particles. And I guess this is going to be an NFT segment. So when I heard about charged particles, when they launched in February, I was really fascinated by them. And it just, when I think about this podcast, for example, I always talk about how encryption was a disruptive force that acted as a force multiplier for value on the internet. And in my view, despite all the hype about NFTs today, my belief is that force multiplier or force multipliers have yet to arrive. Now, I love this concept that Charged Particles has of effectively wrapping a wallet around an NFT where the wallet follows the NFT as opposed to the user. And then permitting an interest yielding component as part of that NFT and creating conditions around the unlocking of that yield, I think, is a significant opportunity. Now, I can't tell you that charged particles is the or a force multiplier, but I am fascinated by the possibilities. And I love the way that it really starts to explore what else is possible for NFTs. So I was really lucky to get both Ben Lakoff and Sam Casey, business lead and product lead, on the podcast to discuss. So I think you're going to enjoy this podcast. And of course, if you like it, share it, comment on it. Let's get the word out. Thanks so much. And with that, I bring you the Charged Particles Encrypted Economy episode. Welcome to the Encrypted Economy, a weekly podcast featuring discussions exploring the business, laws, regulation, security, and technologies relating to digital assets and data. I am Eric Hess, founder of Hess Legal Counsel. I've spent decades representing regulated exchanges, broker-dealers, investment advisors, and all manner of fintech companies for all things touching electronic trading, with a focus on new and developing technologies. This is Eric Hess with the Encrypted Economy, and I'm so excited today to have two members from the team at Charged Particles on the podcast. I have Ben Lakoff, who is the co-founder and business lead, and Sam Casey, who is the product lead. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, Eric. Excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have the podcast because I've been following Charged Particles, and this is so great to be able to get into it a little bit. So before we even dive into it, why don't we just do sort of a high-level origin story background for each of you before talking about the project?
Sure. Sam, you want to lead it off?
Sure, yeah. So I started my career in traditional finance, worked at Fidelity Investments doing a mix of product and strategy work for a number of internal startups and crypto projects there. The last and probably the biggest project I worked on was a Bitcoin index fund for institutional investors. While I was there, I taught myself to code and fell in love with the process of building web apps and stuff. So I eventually left Fidelity, started my own development shop, ran that for a year, building prototypes for early stage Web 2 startups, but ultimately missed crypto so much and missed all of the exciting stuff that was going on surrounding financial inclusion that I got drawn back into it. And eventually I joined the Gitcoin kernel program, which is sort of like an accelerator, just as an individual, and met Ben and Rob through that, and then have been here since last February when we launched.
Excellent. And Ben, how about yourself?
Yeah. Ben Lakoff. My background is in finance. Got into crypto in 2016 via angel investing and kind of never looked back. So started a business then, failed one, learned a lot. Sucks as a, blow to the ego to fail a business, but you learn a lot about what not to do, which is helpful. Did a bit of advising consulting in the space, and then ended up at Gitcoin Kernel, which is a virtual accelerator, for lack of a better descriptor. Highly recommend listeners who are interested in learning more about Web3, check it out. It's actually branded as Kernel now. It's spun out of the Gitcoin umbrella. But it was there that we really expanded our Web3 community. So I met Rob. This kind of leads into the origin story of Charged Particles. He's been dreaming about this since late 2019. Our Twitter handle is DeFi NFT, which was in February 2020. So very forward thinking before DeFi summer and all of these things, or let alone DeFi and NFTs put together in this way. So started jamming with him on the idea of charged particles, and started making it a reality later, like summer 2020. Um, Raised a funding round, built out the proof of concept a little bit more, and then started building out the team. So Sam, we knew from Kernel, joined us early on, and we've been off to the races ever since.
Awesome. And I've heard Ben's no stranger to podcasts. He's got his own podcast, right? The alternative asset management podcast, right?
Alt asset allocation. So
Alt
this
asset
was
allocation.
there were a couple like COVID babies, passion projects, and one of them was a podcast. And big fan of podcasts. If you haven't heard of this already, but I mean, I had the opportunity to interview Mark Faber and Jim Rogers. These are like famous billionaires that I've looked up to and read their books since I was. Yeah, I'm that weird kid that reads finance books, but as a kid reading finance books, so it was pretty sweet.
Awesome. So let's start to dig into charged particles a little bit, and maybe take a step back and just kind of walk us through, what it is.
Sure, I can take this, Sam, and then maybe we'll ping pong back and forth. So charged particles is an NFT protocol that allows you to take your NFT and give that NFT its own smart wallet. So your NFT has its own wallet that can hold other assets, and then you can do all of these malleable things, like you can program time locks or break apart the yield. But the key, like TLDR, is your NFT can now hold other digital assets.
Oh, that was quick. I was.
We're trying to short it. Brevity is a skill, right? Like, no, I mean, there's lots of the thing is, like, jump into one of our community calls or our community, and like the opportunities are truly endless when you think of an NFT not only as a JPEG but as this non-fungible unique token, and then that unique token being like turned around as a container and being able to put things inside of it, so you can have an entire yield farming basket of different portfolios and rebalancing. There's a bunch you can do all containerized within this NFT. So because it's within an NFT, I have my wallet that I sign into with my, my private key controls my wallet. And then you almost have these sub accounts all containerized within those NFTs. So I can transfer the whole thing over to Sam if that would make sense. But, so you think, oh, maybe like a trust account, I could hold this whole thing for my kids. I could put things inside of it. I could time lock it until they're 18, transfer it when they're 16, but they can't pull it out until they're 18. Those possibilities are all enabled with what we've built at Charged Particles. I can talk as long or as little as you want on it, but an NFT that holds other digital assets is pretty easy.
see, Sam and I actually had a chance to talk before. This is my first opportunity with Ben, but Sam knows I'm pretty enthused about it, so we'll get going. Don't worry about it. But before we dive in a little bit, let's talk about Mainnet compatibility. Sam, do you want to kind of give us an update?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're live on Ethereum Mainnet. We have been since February of this year, as well as on Polygon. So we have the cheaper option there for people to experiment with our protocol. We've been live since just a few months after we launched on Mainnet. We're blockchain agnostic. We're try not to be opinionated about what blockchain we think is going to win. What we're confident in is that NFTs are here to stay, and doing more with your NFTs is what's important. So as it's technically feasible, which right now means EVM compatible chains or like layer 2s of Ethereum, we plan to expand to as many different blockchains as possible in the future. For now, we're starting with Mainnet and Polygon though, to really dial in what use cases matter, what little kinks there are in the armor and stuff like that. But eventually, yeah, we hope to be everywhere.
Awesome. And let's talk a little bit about the time locking. So Ben, you talked a little bit about trusts, but time locking actually, there's a lot you can do with time locking beyond trusts. What does this do to like I'm going to frame it as NFT value duration. I don't know if you've thought about it in these terms, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, so a a lock is based on a different variable. So if you think of an NFT holding other assets, you put things inside of them, and then you can pull them right out. So if you add this variable of a lock, one variable that you can add it based on is time. So after 6 months, I can pull it out. After 2 weeks, I can pull it out. But until then, it's still within that NFT. I just can't actually withdraw it. So there's other locks that we love to build. So we're always hiring devs if there's any devs listening. But these are fun, probably very useful abilities to have these unlocks based on other attributes. But I won't go over that. I'll stick with time. So time alone, if you think of a trust, so you think of this NFT housing value that I can't withdraw until a certain time period has elapsed. Or you think of a early stage startup locking their pre-value tokens inside of an NFT, transferring these to an investor. They can't pull those out until the time lock expires. Then you have this ability of like, this token has the value within it. You just can pull it out. So you can use it as collateral. You can kind of pull forward that value without actually pulling it forward or pulling it out and dumping it. So you do have this ability of some sort of bond, some sort of big value dripping out smaller values over time. So we've got V1 of the time lock, which is just it all unlocks at one point in time. So you say, I put $1 million in this Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT, and in 1 year you can pull it out. So what does that do to the value of that Bored Ape now that it's got $1 million earning interest inside of it for 6 months? It's almost a forced hodl. You could put a bunch of WBTC in there and time lock it for a year, and you have it. It's just locked in there, earning interest for a year. So it adds this other fun, like useful token mechanic. So you think about when early stage startups are raising equity. You think about locking your LP positions in there, like Uniswap V2 is it's an ERC20 token, right? So you put those tokens inside representing that liquidity position, or you put your Uniswap V3, which is an NFT, locked inside of another NFT. So you can put all of these things together and you can't pull them out for a year. The kind of V2, V3 would be pull those things out based on different variables or pull them out a little bit over time. All definitely potentials. We just need a little bit more direction from the community before we start building out like those more intricate use cases.
Right, for sure. And where do you see the use cases? I mean, I think a lockup probably makes a lot of sense, but what do you think is let's use the Bored Apes example, that I want to lock value into Bored Apes. It makes obviously the NFT worth more, but what do you see as the immediate utility to that time lock? I guess from, I'm not going to say the person who's I guess issuing the NFT. What's the value in structuring it that way, or what are some of the compelling reasons to structure it that way?
Yeah, I can take this one, Sam, just to kind of complete the thought. So,
Yeah.
I mean, all of these things, we're still early stage, so these are all hypotheses. But some of the ones that seem to have more traction or interest would be that you have an NFT with, so say for instance, when we raise funds, we put our tokens in there and we time lock them, send them to investors. This is a very, very good use case for protocols raising funds, being able to issue the tokens with the vesting contract, all containerized within an NFT. And then another really cool one is putting in social tokens. So you know that you want a social token as an artist, but you don't know at what time period or value or whatever. So you do this as an added incentive for your collectors. You time lock it for a year or whatever. People are still buying their art, but it adds this layer of speculative value, like injecting finance into that piece of art because, oh, it's got 100,000 Ben tokens locked inside it. Ben token doesn't exist for everybody listening. Don't go buy one. Actually, it might, but it's not mine. So maybe these tokens will
It's a big
appreciate in
clout.
value or have something. So it adds that layer of like speculation to this piece of art.
Excellent. And then just I guess comparing that to like its own wallet, right? So like I've heard it described as Trust Particles is almost like it's almost like a wallet. It's like an NFT wallet. You know, maybe just make the distinction between like your MetaMask wallet and your NFT wallet. I know you just described the use cases, but for somebody like kind of wrapping their head around this for the first time, when they think like, oh, it's an NFT wallet that sort of runs with the asset, but it can have other assets in it, much like my MetaMask wallet. Maybe just kind of walk us through like what's the significance of that.
Yeah, I can take this one, Ben. So, like you said, a user can have a wallet, and also smart contracts can have wallets. All NFTs are smart contracts at their core, but there's no default way to control a smart wallet or a wallet that's owned by a smart contract, and do interesting things with it, like transferring assets, basically all the stuff that our protocol enables. So if you own a Charged Particles NFT, as the owner of that NFT, you also own its wallet. So there is basically a layer of logic that you go through that controls the NFT's wallet for you as the owner of it. And that's really sort of like the magic of our protocol. That's what it does. You could think of Charged Particles as a brain for your NFT's wallet. NFTs come with dumb wallets, for lack of a better term, by default. Our protocol turns them into smart wallets. And by a smart wallet, we mean something that acts more like a human, an intelligent being.
So I'm gonna now ask for a little more depth on the reasons why you would want to stream income to an NFT, or how you would stream income to an NFT, other than just the pure. We talked a little bit about, okay, I put an asset that's earning yield. Let's take a step back, talk about like things like royalties, for example.
Yeah, I guess then maybe this we have had some people interested in like potentially using NFTs for payroll as well, which is sort of a similar dynamic to a licensing agreement. So you could have, every time a song is purchased, a portion of that automatically gets deposited into an NFT, and the owner of that NFT is the artist. So it could serve as I guess
almost
like
a
a separate
claim to a
account.
percentage of that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you could then sell that, right? You could sell your licensing fees, and it's another way of doing things which, I'm no legal expert. I don't have any hot record deals. I'm not getting any royalties from any prior sitcoms I was on, so I don't know for sure, but I imagine that
Oh,
these
that
things
wasn't
do
you?
happen.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, other Sam Casey, very common name. But so yeah, you can basically financialize, or you can sell the rights to future income streams pretty easily, just in a few transactions. Whereas I think the way it's done now probably is through a bunch of lawyers and all these transferring of accounts and things like that. So it's potentially a way to sort of streamline the process of like selling future income. But like Ben said, there's a lot to explore there, and we're very early in thinking about those use cases. It's very interesting though.
And there's regulatory concerns with all of this, obviously, because that turns each NFT into like having this royalty stream, which is probably a no-no. So you think about like secondary market liquidity and things like that around that being less desirable once it kind of has this future income stream. So, we all love passive income and the idea of like money just coming from all over into this basket or these baskets that you have. But unfortunately, there are like regulatory concerns on a lot of these. So broadly adding the not financial or tax advice, anything we say in this, we're not lawyers, or certainly not your lawyer, definitely not financial advisors, all of the things.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your
Ah,
lawyer or
except Eric.
anybody's lawyer on the podcast. So, yeah, no. So I actually wasn't asking in the violative sense. I was asking more just as a vehicle. And so rather than try to like, there's so much going on. There's so much even on your Discord channel with a lot of ideas flying around. Let's just kind of build out some use cases for art and fashion.
Yeah, sure. So, well, like thinking more of like zooming out. Like when we say that we're NFT agnostic, that means that an NFT is just this unique token. So it can be attached to a media file that is a JPEG and it's art. It can be attached to another media file, which is an MP3 and it's music. It can be all of these different things. The key is that it's a unique token. So when like zeroing in on these different niches or verticals, art has taken the world by storm with like $1 million JPEGs being sold on all of these very famous old auction houses. It's pretty freaking cool. So these artists have like been able to be really, really creative and create a lot of value with this new niche. New-ish, it's been around for a couple of years, but everybody just started paying attention. So within what charge particles allows within the art niche is, I mean, our platform, we have a minting station and a marketplace. So we don't aspire to be a minting station and a marketplace, but this is more of a proof of concept of what's possible and how to do it. But we've facilitated a couple $1 million worth of sales. It's free to mint. It's on Polygon and Ethereum mainnet. So there is, and there's no marketplace fees or anything like that. So there are these attractive attributes of charge particles DApp for art, but the big thing is it just allows artists this additional layer of complexity and making their art even more unique. So you have a piece of art which is unique by definition. It's an NFT. It's non-fungible. But then you can have social tokens locked inside of it. You can have interest-bearing art. You can have whatever you want. A bunch of other NFTs. We've had people on Polygon because it's way cheaper. Take an NFT. We had this happen a couple months ago now, but it was called Pass the Particle, and the idea was I start off with this NFT and I deposit another NFT inside of the NFT that I have, and then I pass it over. I transfer that NFT with another NFT inside of it to Sam. Sam creates his own NFT and then takes that nested NFT and deposits it inside of his NFT and then passes it to you, Eric. You create another one, you nest that one inside. So what you have is this like almost this choose your own adventure storybook potential of clicking through down the layers of NFTs deposited inside of NFTs that like nobody has been doing that with NFTs. It allows a lot of flexibility, and I mean, our I'm less of a creative person, so I don't know if I whatever didn't get that gene, but like our community calls are crazy of people coming up with crazy ideas of the idea of okay, well, like if I keep going down, choose your own adventure, whatever. So I'd say the ability to create truly innovative, unique pieces of NFT art is what we allow.
Great. And what about fashion? I saw fashion on the Discord channel too.
Yeah. So fashion, we've played around with a few of these different things, and but like one thing is thinking about the metaverse. Everything we interact with is an NFT. So you have a wearable shirt, you have wearable shoes. These are all NFTs in the metaverse. So being able to infuse these things with interest-bearing assets is adds this other layer of confusion to that asset. So one that you probably saw recently was we were at NFT NYC, and one of our team members, Steve, wore a shirt that actually had $20,000 worth of USDC or stablecoin in it, earning yield. So the we had it priced in ETH. So eventually there was an arbitrage opportunity that you can like buy this thing for $19,000 and get $20,000 worth of ETH deposited inside of a shirt. But I think these are like fun experiments that we're playing around with, but like there'll be an actual like bleeding neck problem use case that comes out of one of these. That's for sure.
Excellent. Well, you brought up the metaverse, and I guess maybe just get right into the gaming aspect of it, or the metaverse itself, and sort of that immersive experience. Um, you know, just to bring that one up, like my mind just starts getting hit with all these different possibilities. Like, but rather than let me spin on, like, what do you see as some of the most compelling use cases for charged particles in games and the metaverse?
Yeah. So one,
and we have a limit, 3 hours on this topic.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
just
one of our like one use case in gaming that we really like and that has a lot of interest around it is in-game assets and in-game characters being able to hold assets that have real world value. So simple example would be you could have your video game character be an NFT. Since they're a charged particles NFT, they then have a wallet. And so instead of using Fortnite tokens in the game, you're using DAI or you're using Ether or whatever. And that's what's being sent in and out of the character's wallet. Another one on the in-game asset side, so if you could imagine like a sword or something that a character would use in a battle. Let's say two players battle. Both of those swords have some assets in them earning interest, and whoever wins that battle wins the interest in both NFTs. So there's, I guess, to sort of sum it up, like pretty much every gaming use case that we see and that is being talked about is really about applying this sort of secondary market that's not controlled by the game creator to the unique part of the game itself, or the character, or the sword, or whatever.
Right. I mean, there's a ton of interest in that. You see it in Fortnite and all the tournaments, and people trying to strive to win sort of a creator awarded prize. But with this, you can have all these sub battles going off. Particularly in the metaverse, you don't have to wait for the Fortnite creator or whomever to kind of regulate that game and dictate the prizes. You can do it on your own, and yeah, so that's super exciting. Also, like in the metaverse, you could like hide different assets around the metaverse in an immersive experience, and make it like a geocaching exploration. You find the asset, and you get the value unlocked as well as the sword. So just a lot of super cool things 100%. There.
The geocaching one we really want to tease out, that's for sure. But like the idea of a riskless or a lossless opportunity for somebody to hide a bunch of money in an NFT and hide it within a metaverse, and the accumulated prize is accumulating while it stays hidden. That's a pretty fun one that I definitely want to see built.
Yeah, the harder it is to find, the more it, right?
Yeah, I used to geocache, and it's fun as shit. I mean, it's super fun thing to do when you're in a new place, like run around looking for these geocaching
I see that with my
boxes. And if there were money in there, and like the longer it's been hidden, the bigger the prize is. I don't know. Do you guys know who Forrest Finn is, or what was his name? Forrest Finn, the guy that hid the box of treasure in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Forrest Finn. So this guy who was like diagnosed with cancer or something and hid $1 million in a chest of gold stuff and antiques out in the wilderness somewhere, and like left a poem or some clues. So it was always like almost a it's a myth. Like, did this guy actually do it? The whole plan was he wanted to encourage people to go out and explore and be in the outdoors because that's what he loved. And what added incentive to be like, exploring around and potentially find $1 million chest full of gold and valuables. Well, this wasn't on a blockchain, so there was no provable artifact of him sending money into this thing. So it was
I'm going
like,
to put
okay,
this
yeah,
amount of
this guy,
time into it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's totally a big chest full of gold hidden here. Go look for it. Like, okay. Well, somebody ended up finding it, right? So this thing was hidden for like 5 years. So if it were slowly accumulating rewards, like the pool was getting bigger over time, well, it gets way more incentivizing to find after 2 years when that $1 million has generated a couple, 5 figures of income as well. So it's growing every year that it's staying hidden. But then further, like with smart contracts and the way that these things are programmable, I could even keep that $1 million. I could do this. I could hide this thing, and we could set it up in a way that like I don't actually like I can still pull out the principal, but you, the person that finds it, only finds the interest. So I'm just forfeiting that interest earned over that time period. But you're getting more and more incentivized to find it because that pool of interest is getting bigger and bigger. But I'm not forfeiting the principal at any time. So like I mean, this is where like the benefits of digitization and like this open free metaverse that we envision hopefully happens, or the walled garden of Facebook, you never know, or some iteration, some mixing of the two. But things like this would be super cool.
Yeah, no, super cool was actually the word I was going to come back with, but you beat me to it. In geocaching, from somebody who actually used to do geocaching with my kids, I always found it amazing that you could like go anywhere. And like, we go on vacation, because, vacation, you have time to kill. And it'd be just so much fun to like, you would learn things about a place, go to places, like there'd be the touristy stuff, but you do the geocaching, you find something very unique and very different. And in the metaverse, like, let's say that, you have this immersive experience, but you want to encourage people to go to different parts. You want to kind of, how do you draw people into the metaverse? How do you encourage that exploration?
Oh man, I didn't even think about this. Oh yeah,
finding all those little Easter eggs all along the way in places you want them to go. It's like how do we draw people into like beyond, like in Decentraland. There's like I'm not a metaverse guy in Decentraland, but I know that there's certain districts that are predominantly people go to, but then there are districts that like nobody goes to because they're further out. But let's say you're trying to draw people into it. What a better way than to give people that incentive to really explore, those regions that maybe they wouldn't otherwise go.
Yeah, and you could do this, right? I mean, everything within that metaverse is an NFT. So I could just deposit a bunch of my assets into my building or that statue or that piece of art in the metaverse that I want to incentivize people to see. And then they could go claim the accumulated interest every time they get there. What more incentive is that than I'm actually just forfeiting the accrued interest, but I'm incentivizing people to come, get foot traffic. It's like what Pokemon Go did with AR. It's like you drop this one right outside of your shop while a bunch of people are going to walk there to catch these Pokemon. What if that instead of that Pokemon that's owned, that IP is owned on a centralized server, it's actual real money that you can convert into fiat and pay for your coffee, or convert into a charged particles gift card and use that within another area within the metaverse.
Right.
Pretty cool.
So we shifted to the gift cards, which I think is another like super fascinating area. Like what I find so exciting about like a gift card is a charged particle NFT would allow you to reimagine the gift card experience, right? Meaning, like, with a gift card, I give you a gift card, right? And now you can spend $50 somewhere. It's like, great, like, what experience did I set up? I could have given you $50. But this gift card is like in 30 days, it's worth nothing. So it's like, well, I never understood that one, but we'll put that one to the side, or 90 days or whatever, right? It's like, I pay $50 to put it on a card that expires after a certain period of time. Like, yeah, what's wrong with this picture? But
that's where we're going with monetary policy, right? Like spend it before it declines in value.
So this
save that rabbit
podcast
hole.
This podcast is limited to 3.5 hours. Anyway, so but like with the e-gift, what's stunning about this from a conceptual perspective is that you get to create a brand experience and control it with a gift card. Meaning, we talked about time lock or things like a social token that gets issued at a later date. But if let's say that I'm a brand and I want to create a more immersive experience for, consumers, right? Maybe I create a gift card or you could call it a gift card, we could call it an experience, a wrapped NFT experience, where by buying it, I actually get pieces, there's like a schedule, maybe it's an event, maybe it's could be finding that NFT, Geocache, who knows? But you get to kind of release different things to them over a period of time to kind of create this ongoing immersive experience. So it's not like, hey, I gave you, here's a Pepsi NFT and I got 50 NFTs in it. It's like, okay, I'm like, God, I'm done. I'm going somewhere else, right? That's cool. And you look at the first 5 and you move on. I don't know why I said Pepsi, but we'll go with it, right? But think about it. If like there's a brand, you want to create that experience and you release it on certain events. So it's like, it's something that exists that you experience over a longer duration of time, right? This is why I was kind of focused on the time duration aspect, because, it allows you to sort of control these events, allows you to sort of control that experience where it doesn't just come all at once, where maybe it's not as appreciated, but it gets actually released in a framework that, wow, like I wonder what's going to happen next. I wonder what NFT is going to be released at this date. I wonder what that's going to be like. And you sort of have this sort of like, this anticipation of what the charged particles could release. Am I getting ahead of you guys? You guys are like, damn it! Like I got the devs in the background. They're not going to like me when I tell them about this. But
No, I mean, it's totally true. Everything that you can do with with a wallet, you can do now within an NFT itself. So it has the ability to be transferable. You can have multiple of these inside of a different wallet. You can use them as collateral and pull that value forward. You can transfer them to different places, put them in multi-sigs, whatever. So it really gives you a lot more power and flexibility with like how that is moved around.
Yeah, something interesting you mentioned too, referring to the time duration and, how gift cards sometimes expire. With this interest bearing component, interest earning component, your gift card could be earning interest. So it might start out as $100 gift card. In a year, it's worth $125 or whatever. And then I feel like there's some possibilities there with, incentivizing people to stay loyal to a brand. So perhaps if they're to not spend all of this money right away and only spend the interest on it, make more repeat purchases and sort of build brand loyalty through smaller purchases, as opposed to spending all 100 at once. And then, I'm no longer loyal to that brand until Christmas comes around next year or whatever. I think there's definitely some really interesting stuff that can be done there too. And as Ben said, like the possibilities are pretty endless. So we are really excited to see how it develops and how brands view this potential possibility, what sort of value it can create for them in terms of driving brand loyalty, and then also just if there's any sort of record keeping stuff that's made easier through this.
The possibilities are truly endless. We're just constrained by human capital and time. So like we have these brainstorming sessions where like it's crazy that the amount of flexibility. So finding that small little piece and going with that and going hard in that and testing it out and then iterating based on that is kind of the approach that we're taking for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. You guys are still early in the process, right? There's a lot of road to travel. Just to kind of get into some of maybe the other ones. Hedging. You want to talk about charged particles and hedging?
Sam, you want that one, or you want me to?
Yeah, you're the CFA. I think you should take that one.
Well, there's a few things. So we have some Americans on our team. I mean, Rob's the founder. He's Canadian, so it's pretty much regulated the same. So a lot of these like more heavy financial use cases are difficult because of regulatory uncertainty. Like I certainly
sure.
don't want to launch a like decentralized options platform when it's like very much crossing the lines of like you need a regular like are you KYCing everybody that comes on? Are you worried about AML and Patriot Act and these big scary words that like really throw you in jail for a long time? So a lot of like I mean, charge particles is a protocol. So we're providing the tooling and the inspiration and the ability to do a lot of these things in an open way. So our art DApp allows people to see like, oh, this is what having an NFT with things inside of it, time locked, et cetera, can be used for. And then you can kind of blur the lines. Like even though it's an art DApp, you can use it for some of these other sorts of things that aren't really art, and like still get the product or get the idea across. But with like the more financial use cases, certainly charge particles could be used for these sorts of things. So if you think about like a structured product, all of this could be within an NFT itself. So you have each little piece all kind of basketed into that NFT, and then you could have multiple different directional bets hedging off them each other. So it's like kind of a market neutral strategy all within an NFT itself. So one use case we've thought about, why would you put it into an NFT? We've kind of covered that, but one use case that we're actually seeing within our community is like the idea of like a DAO treasury, for example. And this was on our governance forum, early stages of thinking this out, but like the idea of one multi-sig for the DAO. Well, within the DAO or the community, I mean, within our community, we've started breaking into guilds, so kind of like divisions for like, boomer speak. But like these different divisions of the company or guilds. Guild sounds way cooler. Um, each one potentially could have a bit of that treasury kind of earmarked for them. Well, with charged particles, you could create an NFT that is for that guild, so gaming guild, and put a piece of the treasury into that gaming guild NFT. So it's almost like I have my one account for the total DAO, and then within the account, I've like segmented off pieces of the treasury that will be used for that individual guild. Then within that little piece of the treasury for that guild, you could have governance decisions, like decentralizing the investment decisions on how that money is invested and what sort of potential returns it's kicking off. And then that interest or that alpha, that gain generated from this little container, this gaming guild. So if they turn it into a structured product with different options or levered tokens, all within that, segmented within my overall wallet, where is that gain? Where's that interest? Where does it go? How does it get spent within that gaming guild? So you can kind of see this way of like decentralizing control and decentralizing the different segments of the wallet itself by segmenting things into NFTs like that.
Yeah, and I think to keep it, sort of like the simplest form of hedging, like long, short, assets that aren't correlated. So with our art tap right now, if you're going to go to our site and you're going to see NFTs being sold in ETH. So perhaps if you think that your buyers are, worried about the price of ETH being so volatile, maybe you put in something into that NFT that is, inverse correlated with the price of ETH, so that, hey, if I'm buying this NFT and it goes up in value because ETH goes up, or it goes down in value because ETH goes down, I'm not getting as much of that sort of like price impact from a buyer. So it can just give some sort of peace of mind, I think, to potential buyers if they're super concerned about the speculative aspect of the value that they're purchasing when buying an NFT.
Cool. So there's a number of other things, a number of other guilds on your Discord. Charity, being charitable use cases, crypto voxels, education awareness building. I threw them all out so you could pick which one you most excited about.
I think the most active guilds we have right now are related to art, fashion, gaming, development, and charity. So
and music's quite active.
Music,
sorry.
Right? Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that. So all these different guilds, they're targeted at different user groups, and so the charity guild is really exciting. So you could basically take the interest earned within an NFT and direct that to a charity or multiple charities, so that you can include sort of a social component into your NFT sale, in the same way that like Tom's gives one free pair of shoes to people in developing countries when someone buys a pair. If you buy an NFT or if you deposit assets into an NFT, those can then be directed to a charity. That's something we're super excited about, and something we actually have people building projects for, like as we speak. Very cool stuff to be done there.
Yeah, awesome. But what would be another one that I know you mentioned music? Would that be one of the other more active ones?
Yeah, I'd say music is quite active. I mean, the key with these guilds is we at Charged Particles, we can only focus on so many things. So a big focus right now is upgrades to the protocol, and kind of thinking about the protocol being this base layer that people can spin up different dApps. We can incentivize different dApps to be spun up. There's the past tense, and focus on different niches. But like with the guilds, we have people from each of those industries or segments that know it in and out, like royalties. I mean, I know that there's like a lot to be done there with music, but I've not been a musician, and I don't know the inefficiencies of the current market. So the people leading the music guild do know those inefficiencies, and they do know where you can kind of use this malleable technology that Charged Particles allows, and solve a lot of the actual real problems that exist. So this is a way for us to like scale laterally without like total scope creep of our day-to-day projects, and kind of have these guild leaders who know the industry saying like, this is a problem. This is how we're using the art dApp now to solve this problem, and we really think that like we add a little fuel to this fire, we could create something magical to disrupt this segment. So yeah, I'd say all of the guilds kind of they go in ebbs and flows, like tons of interest, tons of activity, and then kind of people go back and start building, and then come back with updates, and it's new exciting. But we're here for a long time, and this is what we're focused on, and we'll continue to spin up, and different guilds will kind of gain a lot more traction, and hopefully we'll find one that makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. And that makes a lot of sense. I've peppered you with a lot of different use cases here, but it is exciting stuff, and I do love the Discord channel. What haven't I covered that maybe we should be talking a little bit before we break?
Yeah, I think we may have mentioned this before, but Ben just touched on it. Is one key thing for us is we are a protocol first, and we have an app that's a proof of concept. So the reason we have this development guild is we're working on some tooling so that developers can very easily integrate Charged Particles magic into their projects. So our long-term vision is to be sort of like an API for NFTs. So in the same way that pretty much every e-commerce site has Stripe behind it as like a payments API, we want to be this sort of like smart wallet API for NFTs. Shameless plug, like if you're a developer and you're interested in helping us build that or building on top of us, providing feedback on what would be useful for working with the contracts, please reach out to us. It's something we're really excited about. And it's really like our core mission is to be this sort of everything protocol for NFTs that's super easy to work with and helps empower both creators and developers, builders to do more with their NFTs.
Awesome. And Ben, what about you? Any last thoughts before we break?
No, I mean, I'd say obviously this is something that we're super excited about. That there's a lot of people that are always like yourself, right? You reached out and you're like, hey, super interested. Let's jump on a call. Like, just would echo what Sam said, obviously, but also encourage people if they're interested, they like what we're doing, reach out. See if you can help out. See if you can get involved in whatever way that you do add value to a project, because we're always looking to kind of engage with our community and interact with them in new and exciting ways. So our DMs are always open. Don't be afraid to reach out. We're always hiring, certainly for technical talent, but also for non-technical talent as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out.
Is Discord the most active channel for you guys, or?
It is, but that's kind of, I mean, I still have people that don't understand Discord. They're like, no, not going to do it. So, I mean, we have Telegram.
Right.
We're responsive in all the channels. So whatever preferred medium of communication, we'll get back to you. If it's email, info@charge.fi, and we'll get back to you there as well.
Awesome.
Just be warned, if you jump in the Discord, you're going to get excited like Eric, and you're going to start thinking about all the use cases and stuff. So make sure you block your calendar and be ready to jump down the rabbit hole.
Awesome. Well put. So, gentlemen, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Really appreciate it, Eric.